Hi friends, this is Laura with Potpourri of Life. I hope that you are having a fabulous Sunday. Today is my day of reflection, a day of honoring God and of just being thankful for where I am in my life. So as I reflect over this past week, I dealt with an infection that I didn't want to have to go back to the doctor with again and then go back on an antibiotic. There are some things you can do to prevent things, but this particular one just doesn't want to go away. So I can't use herbs for this. This is something that I need medical intervention. And although I was disappointed in that, what I'm not disappointed in is the fact that I have somebody who cared enough to make sure I got the right treatment. With that, it makes me very, very tired. So that's why I'm late today, because this morning I got up. I have my alarm set so when I can take these things. I got up and then I went and fed the chickens and I went back to bed for another 2 to 3 hours. I don't sleep this long very often, but apparently my body needs not only the healing, but it also needs the rest. And we all need that from time to time. That is a part of life that sometimes we forget when we get so busy and wrapped up in our jobs, in our children, in our marriages, in life itself. So when I took Thursday and I finally announced an official day for my retirement, and I finished taking everything off my website for the business that was bringing in income, and it wasn't bringing in a lot over the last few years because I was cutting back. I was already starting to cut back, mostly because after the Lyme diagnosis, I never really got back the energy that I once had. So to actually officially make it real has been a joy. And these last 4 days, I'm still reflecting. I'm still in awe over the fact that I did this. It's almost like you're working at a job you just don't like. And one of the things I've told my husband, I tell other people, that if you're not happy there, it's time to leave. And you know what's hard in leaving is deciding, making that decision, because there's always good parts of your job. But the parts that tear you down, you have to decide, are they worth it? All that you do, is it worth it? And if it is, then you shine and you just bring that joy into your job. And that's what I tried to do with my sewing business. I loved my sewing business. I truly did. I loved working at the hospital. That was a time when I had to quit because of how ill I was with Lyme, and I got better. And so as I go on with the retirement part, I want to share something from Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verses 1 through 8. And this is good whether you are a Christian believer or not. The words are very valuable, so I hope you hang on to hear this. For everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, time for war and a time for peace. Now, the latter of each of these are my preferred. Even though I don't want to die, we know we will all die at one point. So we need to live in the moment. We need to flourish with joy. We need to make our lives worth living. So as I retire, I'm not going to stop living. I'm actually changing how I approach life. I'm not dependent on other people. Will I help others? Yes, I will. Will I take on some work from time to time? Yes, I will. But for now, it's a time of healing. When we plant our gardens, we also have to pluck them out. Sometimes the plants die. Sometimes their life is only for a short period. Herbs, I keep cutting, and eventually when the season changes, we stop. A time to kill. I have a hard time with that because I don't find it a loving aspect. But in some ways, when we have to send men and women to war, there is a reason, because of how much we care for others and our country, or however you want to perceive it. But what's really important is the time to heal. And we need to be here every day to heal for one another. A time to break down and a time to build up. And those two stanzas are really kind of they work together. Because when we have things in our lives that break us down, we need to support one another and lift each other up. We can't always fix what the other person is going through or what they just embraced. Maybe they lost a spouse. Maybe they were given a horrible diagnosis. But we can build them up by being there for them. But there comes a time when we still, those of us who have been ill, need to heal. Maybe we won't be 26 again, but we need to heal. We need to change our mindset and say, how are we going to overcome this? We might have to deal with some things for a long time. And for those of us who have dealt with things long term, yeah, we get down. We do. And sometimes we have to be quiet. The way I deal with that is like, okay, this isn't great news. There are days that I cry. And there's days that I just I tell David, don't come near me. Because the pain of dealing with this day in, day out is hard. But you know what? There are days I don't deal with the Lyme and I don't deal with other things that are going on in my life in reference to my health or in other aspects. So there is a time to heal. And those moments, the days that you have great, live them. Live them fully and with joy. A time to weep and a time to laugh. One of the best medicines is laughter. And my husband and I have very dry sense of humor. And those of you who work in medicine, we have a sick sense of humor at times. But you know what? In order to deal with the very many things that we encounter day in and day out, you kind of have to laugh. To mourn, I've mourned having to retire because I wasn't sure what I was doing. I mourned the loss of my mother-in-law when she died with cancer. She was a very special woman to me. I don't so much mourn her right now. The memories that come back remind me of the beautiful soul that she was. And that, even though it brings tears and chokes me up a little bit, I want to be remembered the way she's remembered. We had different venues, we have different goals, but I want to be remembered the way she was. Someone who spoke her mind. Someone who loved everybody unconditionally. It didn't matter what race you were. It didn't matter what choices in life you made. We may not agree with them, but we didn't stop loving. And that's what I want to be remembered for. She never stopped loving. She had a creative spirit, and she loved to make quilts for everybody. She was an encourager, and she would encourage me. When I started my business, she was an encourager. And she asked me for things, and I said, yeah, I'll do that. And she goes, Laura, I want to pay you. I had a hard time accepting payment. So I just didn't charge her what I charged other people because, she paid me in more ways, my father-in-law as well, than you could ever imagine. So you give, and you want to remember. So even though I have fond memories of her, and there's other people who have passed and gone along ahead of me, and I miss them too. My grandparents, my granny and my granddad, I didn't see them enough. They were out in Missouri. I didn't see them enough. But I remember my last call with my granny. She shared some things with me that I never thought I would hear from her. Some of the things I experienced as a child, she herself experienced. So when she died, I felt honored. Not only with the things that she taught me about preserving foods, about honoring your husband, and she didn't talk about those. She was an example of those. Those are things that I hope, by honoring these women, that I can share with others. And I hope that I'm remembered for it just the same way as them. Now, I'm not saying that so remember me. I'm saying that because I want to have an impact from my life for anybody who is a part of it. I don't know if that makes sense, but I hope it does. Because when I pass and it's my time to leave, I want people to reflect and say, yeah, she made a difference. Or just have a fond memory of just one thing that I may have done for you, or even a word that I might have said. So even though we weep when we lose, or when we hurt, or when we're ill, there is a time to dance. And dancing, just like laughter, is fabulous medicine. A time to cast away stones, meaning don't hang on to the bitter stuff. Don't hang on to the people who didn't have value for you, because they aren't the ones that you are supposed to be nourishing at this time. Embrace, gather the stones that are meant for you. So as you put aside, and I think the next verse goes, no, it's, okay, so we're casting away stones. Take those negative virtues and put them aside. Give those people time, because we all know people change over time. For good is often, that often happens, and sometimes not so good. I know when I was finally diagnosed with Lyme, it was a relief off my shoulders. There were some things about me I did not like, because I got angry fast, and there were some things that I did, and when I talked to my specialist about this, and I was going through all these feelings, he says, that's typical of how this disease affects a person's body. I said, they get angry? I said, this has never been me. He goes, they get angry. And he says, and you've had it a long time. So he uplifted me. He told me it was going to be a journey, and it has been. But he uplifted me, and I hung on to the hope that even if he could not heal me completely, he would give me the freedom to live more fully through the treatment that he gave me, and then later allowing me to try using herbs. So get rid of the stones that are not helping you. The people who are mean to you, put them aside. If people are unkind, don't entertain them. Meaning, don't give them pleasure in letting them know they just irritated you. Show kindness and show love. Because you know what? The more you love your neighbor, the more you love those who have hurt you, it may not help them, but it prevents you from being bitter. Time to embrace and time to refrain from embracing. Now, I'm a hugger. Many of you guys know that. So when they took the hugs away, when we embrace, I embrace my family. Now embracing is coming back. But people that I used to in different type of situations, you just don't do that anymore because of the world falling apart. And I think what has happened has been horrible. Okay, so a time to embrace on that aspect is we needed to embrace what happened in our world. We had to. We had to accept what was going on, and then we had to adapt. And then we no longer embrace the negative, but rather embrace what we learned from it. Does it mean that we'll always agree? No. But what we should be able to embrace is the positive of what came out of that. Now, I will always be a hugger. I can't help it. I remember when all of this happened, my neighbor was watching my Facebook feeds, and he knew I was having a hard time. And I went over and I brought him some cookies or something to that nature, because that's just me. I have to share. And he's a very special neighbor to us. And so he said to me, he said, "You need a hug, don't you?" I said, "I do." During the time when nobody was supposed to touch. Can I tell you, that was the most amazing hug I've had. Yes, my husband hugs me, my children hug me. But to have somebody acknowledge the need for that hug was the best medicine for that moment. So we need to embrace the good, the bad. We need to let go of what has hurt us and embrace the good. A time to seek and a time to lose. So as I was trying to determine how to retire, what do I do? It meant I had to lose some things. I had to put aside my pride of I have no identity. But you know what? I didn't lose my identity. I gained insight into who I am. So when you go to work, because many people will not be able to retire right now, when you go to work, stop and think about what good is there. There's plenty of good in your job. When I was in LNA and as a surgical tech, the good I saw were the workers who cared about those patients. But I also got to encounter some amazing personalities that came through. Some funny patients. Some patients that were angry. And what happened was, when you embrace them and give back part of you with love, you transform them into accepting their situation. And that's called compassion. Giving a little bit of yourself so that they can heal, so that they can enter the operating room, to make it so that the doctor can work more effectively. I loved that job more than anybody will ever know. It was a gift to serve in that capacity for the 4 years that I did. It broke my heart when I was finally diagnosed, because that meant I couldn't do that. But what I did learn was I had to embrace time to healing, time to keep, and time to cast away. Yeah, I'm showing videos of the work I did. And I will be very grateful for those memories. But casting them away, of the dependency others have on me, it actually was a relief for me. There's a time to tear down walls, tear down, and then there's a time to sew, a time to mend. This isn't about being a seamstress. This is about taking care of the things that break down. When you need to replace your roof, you replace it. But in life, we also have things that we need to repair. And sometimes it's our hearts. If we become bitter because of something, we need to repair that. If we are diagnosed with something that we don't want to hear, reflect, get that support group that you really need. And that's really hard. And if you don't have that support group, learn to embrace the good in what you've been told and seek a positive outlook. Because the one thing that I've always done is always say, well, there's somebody worse off than me. And I've had a couple of doctors say, yeah, but this is yours, and it is okay to be sad, and it is okay to deal with this. You should not have had to deal with your past. You should not have had to deal with what you're going on, but this is life. So, but I see that there's other people who are struggling, and I just say, it could be worse, because I still have joy in my heart. I may not like things, but I have joy. A time to keep silent. Lord Almighty, it's hard to keep me silent because I have a tendency to speak my mind. But I'm learning. I'm learning to just hold my tongue. But there are times that we need to speak up. We need to speak up for ourselves and be advocates. We need to speak up for others who are hurting. We need to be there for others. A time to love and a time to hate. Just because we might be lovers of the world, lovers of people, it does not mean we have to love everybody and everything that they do. If a person is a very mean and unkind person and a bitter, well, I won't say bitter because they're going through a stage, but a hateful person, we can hate that action. We can hate their behavior. But there's always a time for love. I don't embrace hateful, mean people. I don't. I just pray for them because that's all I can do, because I can't embrace the pain that they inflict either on me or others or ones I love. I'm just not going to do it. There's a time for war. It does seem like our country's going through a war right now. There's wars going on all the time. There's always been wars, even when God, the biblical times, there's always been wars. But there's always peacetime. And that's what we need to stand focused on, is there's peace. We can be a part of mending. The most important thing in life for me is God. The most beautiful attire that any of us can wear is our smile. If you don't know how to smile, your mirror is a great place to start practicing. Learn to smile at yourself. My greatest asset is my faith. I hope it's yours as well. The most powerful force in this universe is love. If you don't know how to love, you're missing out. It's an amazing feeling to love others. Amazing feeling to give unconditionally. That's what love is. To have compassion for people even when you don't understand. To care for somebody when you don't want to care. But they're good people. You need to let go of the selfish part and love. And that, to me, is the greatest, the most powerful force that this universe can embrace. And that's what will bring us to peace. There was something that I posted this morning on my Facebook page, so any of you who are my followers saw it. And it was an older woman, probably about my age. And she had written, as we grow older, we let go a little at a time. A bad memory, a negative habit, and a toxic friend. I've done that. There are some negative things, people who have treated me bad. As I remember them, I don't have that hurt feeling anymore. That's the power of love. Bit by bit, we shed what no longer serves us. I'm going to pull this out. Until we reveal who we are underneath it all. We soon discover that even though we gave up many things, there is no feeling of loss. What we have gained in return is far more valuable. So even though I have set aside a part of my past, the one thing I struggled with was my identity. I didn't lose my identity. I actually became fuller in who I am. I know who I am. I don't need approval from other people, although it's always nice. I don't need their acceptance. I need to accept me. And that is something that I do. Like I said, I don't like what's going on with my body. But I'm also 62. I've been blessed with 3 beautiful girls. I've been blessed with 2 amazing grandsons. I've been blessed with a husband who's put up with me through my great times, my sad times, my real cranky times. And yet, he loves me unconditionally. And when I'm cranky, do you know what he does? He embraces me, and he hugs me tight. When we were first married, he didn't understand why I got cranky. I said, he didn't know what to do. And so I told him years ago, the best thing that you can do is hug me as tight as you can. And he goes, but won't that irritate you? Because I do have some sensitivities and stuff like that. I said, just hug me like I matter. And that is healing. So today, as I end this, I want to give God the glory of actually teaching me how to accept me. Loving what I have done in my past. Looking forward to what He has in store for me. But more importantly, I am thankful for a God who has never given up on me, who has always had my back. So I hope that your day is blessed in many, many ways, and you take time to reflect on some of these things that I've shared, and you start your week off in a positive way of making a difference. May God bless you abundantly. God bless.